Good afternoon, guys. It's Saturday, December 11th. My name is Dave Coker, and this is Talking About Finance. We'll start out, as we do every week, taking a look at the markets, and it was a really interesting week in the U.S. markets. S&P 500 traded steadily over the week, closed up about 3.82%. The VIX started out 30 on Monday, relatively high, definitely above one standard deviation, and it closed down over the week to 1869, so it's roughly at its long run mean. The 10-year note traded up slightly to close at 1.48. Oil's up to 71.94, about 8% gain on the week, 48% year to date. Still ain't selling my oil stocks. I think there's a lot of money to be made there. Now, as usual, 3 points about this week. Fed meeting's coming up next week. We saw a real hot CPI print, and the Fed meeting, we suspect, on the back of that print, we suspect the Fed's going to start to accelerate tapering. They want to be in a position to raise interest rates, and you can't be raising interest rates if you're still engaged in tapering. It's just not going to work. Equities still look good. Be prepared for higher volatility. And in terms of sectors, take a look at value and cyclical. That's what we're tending to look at these days. All right, now in terms of what we're talking about, me and my buddies on the Telegram channel, we're all a little uncomfortable. We're all globally mobile, lots of different nationalities. As an American, I'm extremely uncomfortable with a lot of hostility that America is putting out towards China. As you know, if you listen to my other podcasts and videos, maximum respect for China, the nation, dragged 400 million people, over 400 million people, out of abject poverty. My God. And what's America doing except bad-mouthing the Chinese? It's really amazing what goes on there. Now, this has been making the rounds and showing the number of manufacturing jobs falling. Yeah, reasonable question is, what's the United States doing about it? The other Western democracies tend to retrain people. Look at the Nordic societies. They retrain people, government funded. We're not doing that. All we're doing is beefing up the military budget and planning for and they use these words, which I really don't like, the inevitable confrontation with China. What garbage. Spend the money training people, and then the number of manufacturing jobs falling will be less of an issue. But it's just what the media does. They get these instructions, I'm pretty darn sure, from Washington, and they carry them out. And here's an interesting one. This is very fascinating. The media is hyping up the Metaverse now, virtual reality, and also AI. You can see how these things, they peaked. I mean, I was writing expert systems, a form of AI, at Bell Labs back in the 86, 87. So there was a peak then, and then it dropped, and now we're seeing another peak in AI, which does have utility, I'll admit. VR, virtual reality, the metaverse, what garbage. I don't believe in that at all. And we'll talk about that a little bit further, get a little bit deeper into this. Here's some other media garbage, and this was like the stupidest article I've ever read, I swear. Actually, CNN's trying to convince people inflation's good for you if you're working class. It's bad for the rich people. How garbage is this, right? And the premise of the article is that rich people hold more financial assets and tend towards bonds. Yeah, there we go. And fixed income, blah, 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 blah. Well, not that I'm rich, but I'll tell you something. Before the global financial crisis, I had an extremely large pool of liquidity. And when I saw post-global financial crisis, when I saw interest rates starting to crater, I had a property business. I moved all that liquidity into property and sharply expanded my property business. Bring on the inflation. I don't really care. Rents go up, property values go up. But this article is very insulting, and I can't believe that they can get away with making such a stupid argument. They're just trying to convince people that when they see their prices going up like a rocket, that it's not that bad. Keep in mind, guys, the CPI print's close to 7%. The last time we seen inflation like that was back in Ronald Reagan's time in the 80s, and interest rates were 18%. So there was no pain. You're getting 11% net gain on your wealth. Now, of course, CPI 7%, interest rates are effectively zero. So they're really bad. It's really, really bad. And they're just trying to make excuses for the Biden administration and this rampant inflation that they've got. You got to think about what you're going to be doing with your money. And here's an interesting one. As you guys know, I got 67% of my retirement capital in gold and silver. And this is an interesting one because I've mentioned this before to people. I was at a conference about 4 years ago, commodity conference, and this speaker got up and he got the whole crowd chanting, "You can't have solar without silver. You can't have solar without silver." Come on, repeat it, repeat it, repeat it. You can't have solar without silver. This is really fascinating. These are the attractions of holding silver. I'm up about 50%, I believe, in my silver trade. I'd have to look at it. I don't really pay attention that much to the prices, but you can check it for me. I'm up about 22% on gold, I believe, and silver, I thought it was 50, maybe. I'm not totally sure, but I bought it in March 2019. I moved a good chunk of cash that I had into gold and silver, and I'm not selling. I'm going to hold on. This green revolution, this move towards electric cars and other vehicles and things like that with electricity is just going to increase the demand for silver. And it's really fascinating when you think about cars and you start to look at what's going on in the market. This is a really interesting chart. And here we've got a comparison of Tesla and Ford. We're looking at revenues and we're looking at market cap. And look at Ford's revenues, 134 billion, basically about 200% of what Tesla is. And look at the market cap. My God, right? So, Tesla, interesting company. We know it's valued more like a tech company than a car company, but this puts it really in your face. You can actually see it. People that are buying Tesla, making money on Tesla, good for you. I wouldn't go near it. It doesn't pay a dividend. I don't want to own it. Ford, yeah, I'm not really interested in that either, right? Not because of the industry and things like that. It's more because I don't buy anything that pays a dividend unless it gets, and this is my personal hurdle rate, unless it earns about 10%. If I just don't really look at it. If it yields more than 10%, I should say, then I will look at it and I'll apply some other tests that I have to see whether I should take a position in companies. But there's a lot of garbage going on in the market. Here's an interesting one. This is off my research. I distributed this to my clients today, actually this morning. Now, we've got social media looking at year-to-date returns between the Qs, tech-heavy index, S&P 500 up 25 and 22% respectively, Facebook up 14%, and Twitter down some 21%. What's the big news about Twitter? Dorsey stepped down. He doesn't want anything to do with it anymore. He's going to focus on cryptocurrencies. He's building out Square, or now called Block. And what about Facebook? Zuckerberg hasn't left. He hasn't stepped down. But all his attention is on this Metaverse, this ridiculous idea. I'll tell you what's going to happen with this Metaverse, this VR push. Once upon a time, I was programming Apple II computers. Now we're talking about my first job after I finished my undergrad, math and comp sci, 1980. I programmed Apple II computers. And people bought Apple II computers not because they had BASIC and you could play games on them. Businesses bought them solely because they had what's called a killer app. They had a spreadsheet. The first spreadsheet, VisiCalc, ran only on the Apple II. Now, later on, we know what happened with the IBM PC, but that's not the point. The killer app, the reason people bought the Apple II was because of VisiCalc, a spreadsheet. I keep asking people this and nobody's got the answer. What's the killer app for the Metaverse? I'm on Decentraland. I'm on a couple of these platforms. There's no killer app. There's a bunch of people wandering around and talking, and they do shows, and it's very interesting. But I'm not paying, and there's no way I'm going to go out and pay to get a VR headset. And especially, I got to log in to Facebook to use the Oculus headset that I've got, an older one. But aside from that, there's no killer app, so I don't see it. It could happen in roughly 10 years. There may be some app that emerges that you have to get into the Metaverse to use. Aside from that, I just don't see the utility of the Metaverse. I don't see any reason to be on the Metaverse and to buy the hardware, actually participate in all that stuff. Oh, and finally, I get to mention this, right? A lot of people say crypto is useless. It's got no utility. Right? You know I've been buying Bitcoin every Friday for years. Let's take a look at Bitcoin and the dollar over a period of time, from 98 up to 2021. We got a shopping cart. 98, what 20 dollars buys. 2005, 2014, 2021. Look at what one Bitcoin buys. 2012, 2013, 2014, 2021. Hold on to your Bitcoin, guys. I buy Bitcoin, as I mentioned to you guys, every Friday. When we had that crash, I bought a lot more. I bought basically a month's worth in one day. I buy Bitcoin every Friday. I bought Bitcoin yesterday. I will be buying Bitcoin next Friday. And we'll talk further about, I feel that we may be entering another crypto winter. We're going to go sideways for a while. It's entirely possible we could see a spike, but keep the faith. I'm not selling. I don't plan to sell any Bitcoin. Maybe you should buy some if you don't have any. All right, guys, thanks for your time. Once again, you're going to have an excellent week. Things are looking up on the equity front. We do expect Santa to come. I've been waiting for him, right? So Santa Claus rally, we think we're going to see this happen, and we'll just have to give it a try. Just put some money in the market, sit back and wait. Remember, it's time in the market that counts, not the time you enter the market. All right, thanks for your time, guys. Take care.